The room was electric. Cameras flashed. Journalists whispered nervously. It was supposed to be a routine press conference, but then Trump leaned into the podium and dropped a bombshell. "Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is anti-American," he declared with a sneer. "She's unfit to serve. Her loyalty is not with us." Gasps echoed through the room. The words hit like a fist. For a moment, time seemed to stop. In Detroit, Rashida sat in silence, watching the live stream with her elderly father beside her. His hands trembled. Her son peeked from the hallway, confused by the sudden tension. Tlaib's phone began vibrating endlessly. Journalists, supporters, strangers from across the country. Social media exploded. Some cheered Trump on. Others erupted in rage. But Rashida didn't speak. Not yet. She stared at the screen, calm on the outside, heart pounding on the inside. Not for herself, but for the millions of Muslim Americans watching. For the single mothers, the immigrants, the forgotten neighborhoods. They all heard it too. This wasn't politics. It was war on her name, her story, her truth. And she knew. She had to respond. But not in anger. In history. Rashida didn't speak to the media for 2 days. The White House doubled down. News anchors debated her patriotism. Hashtags trended. Unfit to serve, or Tlaib's Trump. Protesters gathered outside her Detroit office. Some in support, others demanding she resign. Inside, Rashida sat in her living room, surrounded by silence, her son asleep on the couch. Her eyes burned from reading messages, some hateful, some heartbreaking. One stuck with her. "Please don't let them silence you. My daughter wears hijab. You're the only one she looks up to. We're scared." She closed her eyes. The memory of her Palestinian grandmother flashed in her mind. The way she had whispered, "Don't ever let them define who you are." The pain wasn't just political. It was personal. It was generational. Her father, once a proud auto factory worker, now silent, sat near the window, looking out at the cold Detroit streets. He had come here with hope, and now his daughter was called anti-American. On day 3, she turned to her team and said quietly, "Book me a live slot, not a press release. I need to speak to the people." The world had heard Trump. Now it was her turn. It was 8 p.m. Every major news outlet aired it. Rashida Tlaib, live from Detroit, seated in front of a plain American flag, and her father. She took a deep breath. The silence in the studio was deafening. "I was born in Detroit," she began softly, eyes glistening. "I went to public school. I was raised by a man who worked his hands to the bone at Ford so I could go to college." She held up an old photograph, her as a child, waving a tiny American flag beside her father. "I love this country more than words can say." Her voice cracked slightly. "But loving a country also means fighting for the people it forgets." Then came the fire. "President Trump called me anti-American. But I ask you, what's more American than standing up against injustice? Than loving your neighbor, no matter their race or faith?" She paused. "I won't be silent. Not when children cry in detention centers. Not when black and brown communities are treated like they don't belong. Not when truth is mocked and cruelty is praised." Her final words echoed. "I belong here, and so does every child who has ever felt less than. I am not unfit. I am unbought, unbossed, and unbreakable." The feed cut. Then came the tears. Across living rooms, across the internet. America had heard her now. Phones rang off the hook. News anchors were speechless. Some wiped their eyes live on air. Twitter lit up with hashtags, "Unbreakable Tlaib," and "She Belongs," voice of the people. Even people who had never paid attention to politics before were suddenly watching. Teenagers posted reaction videos. Veterans commented from nursing homes. In a small church in Ohio, a pastor paused mid-sermon, and replayed her speech on a projector. The crowd wept, but not everyone was moved. On Fox News, commentators called it emotional manipulation. A senator from Texas accused her of weaponizing her background. And Trump? He posted just 3 words: fake tears, sad. That night, Rashida sat alone in her office. Outside, candles burned as supporters stood vigil. Inside, she wasn't celebrating. She was trembling. "Did I do the right thing?" she whispered. Her chief of staff nodded, teary-eyed. "You didn't just speak for you. You spoke for millions who couldn't." Then came the knock. It was her father. In his hand was an old folded note. "I kept this since your high school graduation," he said, voice shaking. "You wrote, 'One day, I'll show the world what being American really means.'" He handed it to her. She cried. The next morning, Rashida posted a photo of the note from her teenage years. "One day, I'll show the world what being American really means." Her caption read, "I didn't expect that day to come like this, but here we are. I'm ready." Within an hour, the internet was in tears again. Major celebrities reposted it. LeBron James tweeted, "This is what leadership looks like." A mother in Arizona posted a video of her daughter taping the quote to her bedroom mirror. But while the public swayed, Washington grew colder. Trump's allies demanded an ethics investigation. Some even called for her expulsion from Congress. Behind closed doors, Rashida's team warned her, "They want to silence you. They'll dig into your past. They'll try to break you." But Rashida didn't blink. "I don't care what they find," she said. "Let them dig. I'm not hiding. My scars are part of the story." She walked outside to face reporters. "I will not apologize for standing up for the people," she declared. A child from the crowd shouted, "We love you, Rashida." Her eyes welled up, not from fear, but from knowing. The world was finally listening. Inside the Oval Office, Trump paced angrily. "She's getting sympathy. She's flipping the whole damn story," he barked to his aides. "Sir," one advisor whispered, her approval rating among independents just jumped 14 points. He slammed his fist on the desk. "Then we hit harder. Dig into her. Anything. Her family, her finances, anything." Meanwhile, in Congress, allies quietly pulled away from Rashida. She noticed the cold stares, the empty chairs during meetings. Even those who once praised her courage now stayed silent. But she kept going. She introduced a new bill to increase funding for schools in underprivileged neighborhoods. Many ignored it. But outside Capitol Hill, her fire was spreading. In Flint, Michigan, children marched in her name. In Tulsa, mothers organized prayer circles for her safety. In Gaza, her grandmother's neighbors lit candles in quiet solidarity. But that night, Rashida received a call that froze her blood. A death threat. The voice was calm, male, rehearsed. "You talk too much. You don't belong here. Quit, or something will happen." Her son found her sitting on the floor, pale. "Mama, are you okay?" She looked into his eyes, heart pounding, and for the first time in days, she was scared. Rashida didn't sleep that night. She lay on the couch, fully dressed, her son tucked safely in his room. Every creak of the house made her heart race. The death threat replayed in her mind like a broken record. By morning, 2 officers stood outside her home. Homeland Security got involved. Her team begged her to lay low, but she refused. "If I hide now, they win." Still, something changed. She wore a bulletproof vest to her next event. She scanned every crowd. She kept her father and son under close watch. And yet, she kept showing up. To rallies, to interviews, to the floor of Congress. But during a school visit in Dearborn, something shattered her resolve. A little girl raised her hand and asked softly, "Are they going to hurt you because you speak truth?" Rashida froze. Her voice cracked. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I know this. If I stay silent, more people get hurt. And I won't let that happen." The classroom clapped. But Rashida's eyes were full of tears. She was inspiring a generation. But the cost was beginning to crush her. Fox News launched a special segment, The Real Rashida Tlaib. Old video clips were edited out of context. One headline read, "Is she hiding anti-American ties?" A smear campaign unfolded in real time. Blogs, podcasts, even fake photos. The pressure was suffocating. Late one night, Rashida scrolled through hateful comments under a news article. Send her back to where she came from. Terrorist sympathizer. She's poisoning our country. Her hand shook. Her vision blurred. She ran to the bathroom and threw up. Her father found her kneeling by the sink, gasping. "I can't breathe," she whispered. "I feel like I'm drowning." He knelt beside her, holding her shoulders tight. "You are strong. You come from people who survive storms, not for fame, but for truth." That night, she wrote a letter to her son, just in case. "If something happens to me, never stop speaking truth, even if your voice shakes." She didn't post it. But the fear was now a shadow, always walking beside her. A brave journalist, a hidden mic, a leaked audio file. One of Trump's aides had been secretly recorded. The voice on the tape was unmistakable. "We don't care if she's innocent. We just need the public to turn on her." Fear works. Within hours, the tape went viral. Outrage exploded across the country. Even Trump loyalists began to waver. "She's being targeted," people tweeted. "This isn't politics. It's character assassination." Supporters flooded the Capitol. A retired Marine went live. "I don't agree with everything she says. But this is wrong. She's more American than the cowards hiding behind this campaign." Rashida didn't celebrate. She stood silently in her office, playing the audio over and over. They wanted to destroy her, and she almost let them. But now she had proof. The people had proof. And for the first time in weeks, she felt hope. The tide was turning. The leaked audio didn't just go viral. It shook Washington to its core. Several members of Congress who had stayed silent now came forward. Some even apologized for doubting her. Rashida's inbox was flooded. "I should have spoken sooner. I'm sorry. Your courage, it's waking us up." But behind closed doors, the White House was unraveling. Reporters cornered Trump's press secretary. The aide caught on tape resigned, for personal reasons. Rumors swirled. There might be more recordings. Trump, red-faced and raging, called it a witch hunt. At a press conference, a journalist asked, "Mr. President, do you regret your words about Congresswoman Tlaib?" He snapped, "I said what I said. She's still a disgrace." The room fell silent. At home, Rashida saw the clip. She didn't cry this time. She laughed, not from joy, but from exhaustion. "He's not going to stop," she whispered to her father. "But neither am I." That night, she returned to the House floor, not with anger, but with documents, new evidence of voter suppression, racial profiling, and families denied health care. She wasn't fighting for revenge. She was fighting for them. And now millions were watching. It began as a small march in Detroit. Mothers, teachers, children in strollers. But by sunrise, it had spread to 43 cities. Thousands filled the streets holding signs that read, "Rashida speaks for us. We are not afraid." Truth is not un-American. At one protest in Chicago, a boy no older than 10 stood on a milk crate and shouted into a megaphone, "If they hurt her, they hurt all of us." The crowd roared with tears in their eyes. In the middle of the chaos, Rashida stood quietly behind a curtain in a Detroit auditorium. She was about to speak again, but this time, not to defend herself. This time, to call for unity. Her son gripped her hand tightly. "Are they all here for you?" he asked. She looked out the window, saw the massive crowd, some holding Palestinian flags, others waving American ones. "No," she whispered. "They're here for all of us." She stepped onto the stage. Her voice was steady. "I'm not here to win arguments," she said. "I'm here to win dignity for the people you pretend not to see." And once again, America wept. As Rashida walked off stage, an aide rushed toward her, breathless. "There's something you need to read," she said. It was a handwritten letter, flown from Gaza, from her grandmother. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "They call you names, but I know who you are. You were always the little girl who cried when someone was hurt. You were always the one who gave away your food if another child was hungry. Don't stop now, because you are not alone. The world sees you, and we are proud." Tears spilled down her face. She pressed the letter to her heart, and in that moment something inside her shifted. The pain didn't go away, but the fear, it became fuel. She walked outside to greet the crowd, tears on her cheeks, holding her grandmother's letter above her head. The people erupted. News anchors called it one of the most moving moments in political history. A mother in New York posted, "My daughter is Arab. Tonight she stood taller. She believes she matters. Thank you, Rashida." And so the question was no longer if she belonged. It was how we ever doubted her in the first place. It was the one thing Rashida never expected. A fellow Congresswoman, someone she'd trusted, prayed with, laughed with, went on national TV and accused her of dividing the party. The betrayal cut deep. "I think Rashida's intentions are good," the woman said, "but she's turning pain into politics." Rashida watched the clip in silence. Her hands gripped the armrest of her chair. Her chest ached, not from anger but from heartbreak. This was someone who had sat at her dinner table, who knew her son's name, who once held her hand through grief. Her phone rang. It was Ayanna Pressley. "I saw it," Ayanna said gently. "I feel like I'm losing everyone," Rashida whispered. "You're not. You're just finally seeing who's real." That night, Rashida walked through the Capitol alone. The halls that once felt historic now felt hollow. In the bathroom mirror, she looked at herself and saw a woman being pulled in all directions, attacked from the outside, and now from within. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "You are still worthy." And somehow, in the silence of betrayal, she found a new kind of strength, the kind forged in heartbreak. 3 days later, the White House scandal broke wide open. A whistleblower, an ex-Trump staffer, released a trove of emails and memos, documents showing deliberate efforts to paint Rashida as dangerous, emotional, and foreign, plans to plant false stories, even discussions of coordinated harassment online. The media went into a frenzy. CNN called it a modern-day political assassination attempt. The New York Times front page read, "Smeared and targeted, but not broken." But none of that mattered to Rashida when she saw the real cost. Her son had been getting bullied at school. She found him hiding in the closet, holding his favorite action figure, shaking. "They said you hate America, Mama. Do you?" Her voice cracked as she pulled him close. "No. I am America." That night, Rashida went live on Instagram. No makeup, no speechwriters, just a mother holding her child. "To anyone who ever felt invisible, to every child who's been told they don't belong, I see you, and I will never stop fighting for you." It wasn't a campaign moment, it was a human moment. And in that raw, tear-soaked video, the country found itself again. After the live video, everything paused. For one quiet, sacred day, the noise stopped. Republicans and Democrats both released statements condemning the harassment she faced. One by one, celebrities, athletes, and even conservative veterans began to speak out. You don't have to agree with her to respect her courage. She didn't break, and because of that, my daughters know they can be brave too. In Detroit, a mural of Rashida appeared overnight on the side of a school. It read, "I am not afraid. I am enough." At the Capitol, an unexpected knock came to her office. It was the Congresswoman who had betrayed her earlier. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I was scared. I should have stood with you." Rashida didn't say a word. She just hugged her, because forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was strength. And in that moment, where enemies embraced, where truth was louder than fear, something inside America began to heal. A janitor watching from the hallway wiped his eyes and said, That's the kind of leader I want for my daughter." The hearing room was packed. For the first time, Rashida was called to testify, not as a defendant, but as a witness to what had been done to her. The entire country watched live. She wore white, no jewelry, no notes, just the letter from her grandmother in her breast pocket. The committee chair said, "Congresswoman Tlaib, you have 5 minutes." She stood up slowly. "I was never supposed to make it here," she began. "My father came to this country with calloused hands and a heart full of hope. I am the result of his dream." The room was quiet, except for the occasional sniffle. "They didn't attack me because I broke laws. They attacked me because I broke silence." She held up a stack of the leaked memos. Her hand trembled, but her voice didn't. "They tried to erase me. They failed." Then she paused. "Let me be clear. This wasn't just about me. It was about every woman who's ever been called too loud, every immigrant told to go back, and every child who's been bullied for simply existing." She ended with a whisper. "I love this country enough to fight for it, even when it doesn't love me back." Some people in the room stood and clapped. Others wiped away tears. The next day, something unexpected happened. Trump tweeted. But it wasn't rage, it wasn't mockery, it was silence. No tweets, no press statements, nothing. The man who once shouted at her from podiums suddenly had nothing to say. Later that evening, reports surfaced. Trump's inner circle was in chaos. Donors were backing out. His approval was dipping. His base was divided. But Rashida, she didn't gloat. Instead, she walked quietly into a Detroit community center and served dinner to low-income families. No cameras, no speeches, just love. A mother with a baby approached her, tears in her eyes. "My daughter didn't believe people like us mattered. But after everything you went through, she's applying to law school." Rashida smiled, and for the first time in months, she felt peace. Not because the attacks had stopped, but because she had survived them and turned pain into power. Outside, the mural of her had grown. Kids were painting a crown over her head. The words below now read, "Truth, Tlaib." A year later, Rashida stood on stage at her re-election rally. Not a single seat was empty. She didn't mention Trump once. She spoke only of justice, of dignity, of children still dreaming in cages, and cities still thirsting for clean water. "I'm not here because I'm special," she said. "I'm here because I refuse to stay silent." Her voice cracked. "My name was dragged through the mud. My family was threatened. My son cried himself to sleep." She paused, eyes brimming. "But we are still here." The crowd erupted. Outside, reporters tried to define her legacy. But her people already knew it. She wasn't just a congresswoman. She was a mirror for every voiceless soul who dared to rise. As the lights dimmed, she stepped down from the stage. Her son ran up and hugged her tightly. "You're my hero, Mama," he whispered. And for the first time, she let herself cry freely. Not from pain, but from knowing. She had changed something forever. Hey you, yes you, watching this. Did you feel that lump in your throat? Did you wipe away a tear when no one was looking? If Rashida's courage moved something deep in you, don't just scroll. Like this video if her story made you believe in truth again. Subscribe if you want to see more voices that can't be silenced. Comment. Your thoughts. What touched you the most? Was it the letter from Gaza? The boy in the closet? The mural? Let it out below. This is your space. Your voice matters here. Let's flood this comment section with love and truth. Because in a world full of noise, you stayed till the end. And that means you believe. Thank you for being part of this movement.